صباح الخير يا ولاد، ازيكم عاملين ايه؟ بارك الله وانتم بخير وكل سنة وانتم طيبين. بمناسبة الشهر الكريم، تعالوا إن شاء الله أيام مباركة علينا بصحة وسعادة، ونلتقي على خير إن شاء الله في أقرب وقت. أهلا بكم في مادة الكونسيومر بيهيفير، وديت المادة ديت طبعا أونلاين، بس احنا متواجدين في أيام المحاضرة اللي عايز أي استفسار، وفي الساعات المكتبية اللي موجودة اللي عايز أي استفسار له علاقة بالمادة، إحنا يعني تحت أمره، وبنيجي ونقدم له الدعم اللي طالبه، وكمان من خلال الإيليرنينج أو من خلال المعاهدة لو ما قدرناش نشوف اللي انتوا عايزينه ونجاوبكم عليه. طيب دلوقتي المادة زي ما انتوا عارفين إن هي داخلة في الكونسيومر بيهيفير، ودي بنتطرق لها عن الإجابة. It will answer two questions. The one is related to what, and the other syllable or the other section of the question is related to why. So what do we buy and why? We cannot buy some redundant stuff. No, we cannot just fill our trolley or our castle with stuff unneeded or unwanted stuff because it's in offer or it's cheap or etc. No, we have to decide and we have to make a decision before post purchasing items and after purchasing items. We have some influences, factors in our decision to buy. For instance, if we look at the slide in front of us, we can see the influences in front of us: consumer influences, organizational influences. Then after combining between both here to the consumer itself, it guides us to obtaining, then to the actual consuming, and then to disposing or to lift in the garbage or to get rid of the redundant stuff in our home or in our purchasing stuff. Let us take like a brief, and then we will explain in details about the consumer influences. Actually, the consumer influences are related to C, who is the customer characteristics, customer ethics, customer attitudes, etc. And organizational influences are related to the roughly to the 4P, to the promotional offers of the goods, place and price, and etc. So obtaining then related to how obtaining a decision, consuming is the actual in between both, and then disposing. Let us go to the first and second in sequence of the behavior study. All these influences, if we study consumer behavior, will determine which of each of these will affect this consumer behavior. About the definitions or the actual of marketing process of transforming or changing organization have what people will buy. Yes, they will affect, and the process will change, transforming by evaluating or improving the packaging and the quality or the process of accessibility of the product itself to your own. Again, the customer is a king, so here it's about the value and the crown of the customer himself. About organization influenced by consumer needs and wants of the client itself. So why study consumer behavior? help analyze consumer engagement performance, educate protect consumer from from the hackers and the fake brand, etc. Consumer behavior affect public policy, yes, of course, affect our the behavior of advertising, of policy, of consumer rights and pricing, etc. Consumer behavior affect personal policy that you will approach the stuff to buy. Again, about the topic for outline, the model of consumer, the characteristics, the type of uh, buying decision behavior, is the buying decision itself, and the buyer decision for few. This will lead us to the buyer decision process for new. Again, model of consumer behavior made by decision. What this decision will be taken or will be considered buying decision for local point of market research. Again, markets only can study the actual consumer to answer the fundamental questions by what and why is the consumer uh, buying behavior is not easy answer to deep or to analyze deeply what the influences, as we have seen in the second page of this presentation. All the influences of which can be analyzed to determine which factor affect the consumer behavior. Consumer behavior, again, it's a definition of consumer buyer behavior refer to the buying behavior of the final consumer after mass or after all these being considered. Then the buying decision is the final stage of the individual and households or the housewife or the house lady who buy goods and services for personal consumption or at home. Consumer market, this only refers to the whole of the personal consumption of the final stimuli and other stimuli, but here they are combined in terms of the environment, and here the buyer characteristics, the black box, and the buyer responses in terms of buying attitudes and preference, and they are very combined in under the title responses. Again, these models will we will be cling to or will be stick to in our consumer behavior module. Like for instance, we will use the culture, social, personal, psychological, and buyer. All these influences will affect the buyer or the consumer behavior. For culture and subculture and social trust, each of which will be explained in the forthcoming slides. The social and preference group, family, and all status as well will be analyzed and will be explained. Personal is includes age and be born and early stage or early age and life. Cycle stage, occupation, either you are a doctor or judge or whoever. Economic situation, age or poor, lifestyle as well, and motivation, perception to